All right, guys, welcome to this episode of TNCBA's Tips, Tricks, and How-To. I'm here again, twinning with Kelsey. We're looking good, Kelsey. I like our outfits, man.
That's right.
Didn't even plan this, guys. But this episode is for the big bait enthusiasts out there hunting for a couple big bites, looking for something just to wow them.
Yeah.
And if you like to spend some money, too, on these baits, that's what this is all about. But in the springtime, this is a time as fish are moving up. They're kind of staging up. Some of these big baits work, and you can go out, you can have the best day of your life.
You may not catch a bunch.
You may not catch a bunch. More than likely, you're not going to catch a bunch.
If you catch one, it's going to be a big one.
So in this episode, guys, we're talking about big glide baits and big swim baits. The one I have here in my hand is a 6 cents, 9-inch draw glide bait. As we talk about this, we're going to be talking back and forth between glide baits and jointed swim baits. I like to throw a jackal.
Yeah.
Gantia, that jointed swim bait, it's not a true glide bait. This is a true glide. But the thing, Kelsey, when it comes to this, you've got to commit to it.
Yeah.
And when you go out there, you're not planning on catching numbers. You're not planning on catching fish that are 12, 13 inches. You'll have some come up there and look at it. But that's another thing about this bait.
Exactly.
You get a lot of lookers.
Well, I've not got the chance to really commit a day to going out and doing it, but I've watched a lot of videos and gained a lot of information on it. A lot of people use it as a search bait.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's just one of those things that the fish just cannot follow.
They can't resist.
They can't resist it. Like, they just got to look at it.
Hey, but that's the most frustrating thing about it. We've been on Watauga the last couple summers, and you'll go up there, and some of the biggest fish you've seen in the lake will nose up on it, or they'll just rise up out of nowhere from underneath these docks or out of these the standing timber or these laydowns, and you're sitting there going, I don't know what else to do when it comes to this bait. And I even heard some of the anglers down, now they weren't throwing a jointed or a glide, but they were throwing some bigger swim baits down at Hartwell in the Classic and got some risers. And that's how they kind of found a few of their places in the Classic, was because these fish rose up on these baits, and they're like, I know that there's some good fish under that dock. So it really helped them make a decision on where they were going to spend their time. So it can be used as a search bait, but at the same time, it's also one of those baits that can trigger the biggest bass under that dock or in that tree to come out and eat. But there is an art form to it.
Yes, definitely.
When you fish these, you are dealing with heavy-duty rods, because we are talking about baits that weigh ounces, not quarter of an ounce, not half an ounce. We're talking about baits that weigh ounces. And with that, you're talking about some meaty treble hooks. You're talking about expensive, so you want to take care of them. In my experience with these baits, you want a beefy reel. You're going to be dealing with something that you're not talking about high-speed reels. You're talking about, I see a lot of people throwing even like the old ambassadors, some big round reels that got meaty drags and just meaty components to them. And
you definitely want the gears.
Yeah, you definitely need the gears,
strong.
because when those fish come out and eat it, if you're talking about, and it might sound crazy, but it's not far-fetched. When you're talking about on Watauga, 6, 7, 8 pound bass.
Oh yeah.
And take it anywhere else, even further down south, to fish these. When you're talking about bass of that quality, when they turn with this and you're going to try to fight them back to the boat, they can mess up some equipment. You got to have your equipment on point. So when it comes to a rod, I'm talking almost similar to what we did with the Alabama rig rod.
Yes.
You need something that can handle, and when you look on those rods, guys, it'll tell you this rod is rated for such and such weight baits, right?
Well, that's the same. I use the same rod. I used my Alabama rig rod for this bait too. It says it's rated from 1 to 6 ounce bait, 1 ounce to 6 ounce baits.
Right.
So I mean, that 6 ounces doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a big bait.
That is a big bait, and you really feel that on the end of that rod. And so you want to make sure you've got the rod to match it up. We're not talking about a swim bait here like a 4.8 Kitech or something. We're talking a very heavy bait. And when it comes to casting this, you're going to cast it into some areas that you need to be precise, but it's still going to be most often one of those kind of a lob roll cast to try to place it in there gently as much as you can.
That goes back into what we talked about earlier with that rod being so long, using it
kind of putting
against your body and
yeah.
just rolling your body. Because, I mean, guys, you're going to wear yourselves out if you're trying to cast this thing like this all day. And
Oh, yeah.
With you're trying to use your arms, you're going to be
And
tired.
plus the fish that you're trying to approach this bait with, or these baits, these larger swim baits, you need a little bit of stealth as much as you can. So you don't want something plopping in there as loud as possible. So you want to be as stealthy. So a roll cast, kind of that lob, once it's out there, you want to let it settle. Okay. And there's many different styles on the market. You have your suspending, you have your slow sinking. The one that I have is a slow sinking. I've actually, it suspended pretty well, but I added a little bit of the tape dots to it.
Yes.
Those lead tape pieces to give it just a little bit of a slow sink. So you want to let it settle, and then when you start to work these, you're working them slow. You're moving it. The glide baits, even sometimes it's as much as just a pop of the wrist to get that thing to jump from one side to the next, or you might pull it just a little bit to get it to glide out to a side. I know with the Jackal Gantia, the jointed swim bait, I'm moving that thing as slowly as possible, and every once in a while, I'll just give it a quick pop of the rod tip, and it'll turn around on them. Okay? So you're looking for ways to try to entice that bite, and having good sunglasses is a key thing here, because you need to know when there's a follower. You need to know if there's somebody rising up on that bait, and you've got to be ready to give it a pop or do something different, or kill it. Stop that action to try to entice that bite out of that bass. Because again, they're not, I've had a few that just come out and absolutely destroy it. But a lot of times the ones I've seen, it's a slow movement out. They're watching it, and then they commit to it.
This bait really piques the fish's curiosity.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's something that they're just like, what in the world? Because there's never been really anything up until here recently that moves like these baits
do. And it started out more on the West Coast, and it's worked its way over here. You see it a lot up on Watauga and stuff, and we'll be going there in May. That'll be another time to still be throwing it. You're really getting into that time of year where you can start to kind of throw it. I think it kind of peaks in that May-June time frame when they go post-spawn, and we'll revisit it then. But a few things to think about this time of year with that bait is, one, know the type of forage in your lakes. So, for example, up around Holston, up around Watauga, we know that one of the major forages are rainbow trout.
Yes.
And
if you look right up here in front of me on that little sign, that is a Arashi shad. And that's in that rainbow trout color. And so have some different patterns. Know the types. Maybe if I go down to Gunnersville, or Chickamauga, where there's some big gizzard shad out there, I'm going to have me a good gizzard shad color. But again, the paint jobs on these are excellent. You are going to pay some money. Okay, these glide baits and these swim baits are a little bit more expensive than the other baits that you might be out there throwing. But this is kind of I want to say a hobby within a hobby, because not everybody's out there looking to go throw big swim baits or big glide baits, but there's enthusiasts out there, and there are guys paying $200, $300, $400 for custom made. You can go from like the entry level, like the Arashi shad. I figured that's more on the entry level.
Oh yeah.
You've got them somewhere in between $30 to $25. I mean, that your average is going to be $19 to $40 in your starting range, and then you get up into like the 6th draw. That one's about $75.
Right.
And then you can go on higher.
You keep on going up to depths and some of those other ones.
You get the handmade ones.
Oh yeah.
Then
you're talking big prices. I know another one that is a big one is the bull shad. Another thing that plays with big swim baits in this area. And it slipped my mind right now, the swim bait I'm trying to think about. But swim baits have become more and more of a player in this area, especially on some of our clear lakes up here, these highland reservoirs. But working them, take your time with them, spend your time in areas where you're looking to pull fish, draw fish out of cover. I really do like these on sunny days to kind of find some locations where those fish are going to be tucked up under a dock, where they're going to be tucked in tight to a lay down.
Also, like we said, use it to locate fish. I mean, it's one of those things you can get out there, pull those fish because it is going to pique their curiosity, and then you can come back through there with something different and maybe catch one. I mean, that's the thing. Like it's a finder. Yeah. It's a visual fish finder.
and it'll be fun to go out there and find those fish. We talked about the rod and the reel, having it heavy duty, making sure you're throwing something that is rated for a bait that has that size, that ounce, whatever it may be. But then the line, I'm going, again, 17 or 20 pound fluorocarbon with these. I'm not going light line in any way, nothing below 17. Mainly because I don't want to lose the bait.
Well, realistically, I'm not dropping under 20. That's just my preference.
I agree with you on that one. So it's important. But if you want to try this, this is the time frame. This is not a bait to go out there when it's not the peak season for these glide baits or these swim baits, because you'll be wasting your time. So right now, if you want to get out there, and I know this is a little bit different from some of our others because we're focused on getting bites and catching fish and putting those in the boat. This one is more of go out there and have you a good time and take you a shot at the biggest bag you've ever caught or the biggest fish that you've caught, and just really go out there one day, have that be the only thing, and go searching around the lake and just see what you can find. If you catch some, awesome. Work on some different retrieves. If you got followers, change it up a little bit here and there. Pop it, just slow, constant reels, pulls, and then reel back up to it, pulls, and then reel back up to it, and just see how that bait reacts. The guys that have gotten extremely good with these swim baits, they know exactly how the bait's going to react to what they do. So if they've got a fish that's following and they want that bait to turn around on that fish, they know exactly what they need to do. If they want that bait to have a bigger S and just glide out there even farther, they know the technique and they know the cadence that they need for it. So get out there and learn these baits. I would definitely start out entry level. Get you some of the Arashis, get you the Jackal Gantia, start out with some of those and see where it goes. See if you like it. And then if you become one of these enthusiasts, if you become a hobby within the hobby of fishing swim baits and big glide baits, step on up there and try some of them.
Go to those KGB Chad shads and the Hinkle shads. Yeah, those. Go spend that money.
go break the bank on tackle, guys. But again, this is a great search bait. It's a fun way to go out and try to catch some fish. And it's a bait that works on our lakes here in this area that can pull out some of the biggest bags that you've ever seen.
Fish that you didn't even know lived here.
Fish that you did not know. That's exactly right, Kelsey. That's a good way to sum it up. Fish that you didn't even know live there. So, guys, we hope you've enjoyed this. Tips, tricks, and how-tos. Later on, after this one, moving on towards the spawn, Kelsey, we're going to be talking some good stuff about Holston and what we like to do up there during the spawn. So catch us later on the next TNCBA's tips, tricks, and how-tos.